wherever you might be in the world. I hope this is working because it bounced me out of my Gmail just a minute ago, and that often means it doesn't work, but it says we're live. So good evening, gentlemen. How are we all?
Very good.
Very good. That's good. We like that.
Very good, yeah.
It allows me now to add in these banners. And just before we went to air, UAV Onyx are offering free pings receivers to anybody out working with Hurricane Dorian. So fair play to you, Christian. Well done, I say. I already see people complaining. Within the hour, I see people complaining that it should be in and out. But the bottom line is, well, I don't know. We've said it a million times. We don't need out. We just need in, and we need all aircraft to be equipped with it when we get out of the way. I'll stop ranting about that now. But very well done to UAV Onyx and Christian and the team there. That's fantastic news.
It's raining here. Can I hit one?
Raining.
Yeah.
Raining.
Yeah, I'd like to test one. To be fair, you've got to say how the drone community has stepped up in this as well. There's been a number of great stories coming out of this as well. You know, DJI have unlocking anybody who's involved. We've had Avionics now with this. It's all good stuff, and it's good stuff for the industry, showing that we can make a difference if given the opportunity.
I'm dressing with my Bruce Simpson hat. Just give me a second.
Oh.
Bruce Simpson hat.
Oh yeah, down with the kid.
Why do people want a DSP receiver?
To get out of the way of manned aircraft automatically, and because they're free, as Bruce said.
No, I'm just asking because why do people want a DSP receiver? Just to see the planes?
I suppose.
This is on the flight controller, remember? So this is so you can use and charge your pilot, which you're going to mention in a minute, Louis.
No, I'm not going to mention it. My question is, why do people need the ADSB receiver on a catastrophe area? Because
there should be no aircraft.
There should be no aircraft, yeah. Although they'd only be authorized aircraft. The ones they're handing out are the USB ones, aren't they? So these are the receivers you can connect up to a laptop, I assume, so you can see what's going on, because they're ADSB.
Or straight into the flight controller.
Straight into the flight controller, yeah. So okay, so I suppose, you know, the only argument with how many people are flying those aircraft in those situations, but again, at the end of the day, it's nice to see the technology being offered at very least. It makes you wonder how many will go out versus how many will actually get used for that purpose. As you say, I'll have a free one. But it's a catch. ADS. I've had a bit of a rant about ADSB on the thing this week because I still don't believe it solves any problems as a whole. And I keep getting slapped around with this one, but I still unless every single GA aircraft has it, then drones having the ability to receive it doesn't solve any problem. 747 at an airport is not the problem. The problem is the light aircraft that takes off from the local airfield 10 miles away from me, who decides he's going to come low level to have a look at that lovely little bit of sea where I happen to be flying, comes over the mountaintop at a ridiculously low level and suddenly jumps out on me. Now, at the end of the day, I should have heard him come in long before seeing him come in anyway. But that is where ADSB will come in, because I would see him on path. But unless small aircraft are going to have it, I still don't see the benefit. I think it's fantastic CubePilot are doing it. It's fantastic DJI are doing it. But
let me ask you something else to those that come or have experience on the real aviation worlds. Gary, do military aircraft have ADSB transponders?
They do. They do.
And
the old
use them.
Well, now that's the thing, isn't it? Because they don't have to use them, and they will switch them off when going low level, etc., etc. But remember, if they're in the Wedosphere, say in the Welsh Valleys, just up the road from Ian, if they're there, you'll struggle to get receiver networks to see them anyway, and maybe you'll get out the way as it comes around the corner. But then if you're flying it, you'll be very aware if you're flying in an area where there's lots of military aircraft. Yeah. So you change your lookout and stuff like that. But does it help? Yeah, no, I don't think it's the great hope that people believe it is either.
No. But that's my concern. Is there's a lot pinning on people are pinning a lot on AD. Everyone's getting ADSB in. It's fantastic. What changes? Okay, I'm going to be able to sit there and look at a lovely 747 going overhead. Brilliant. Instead of doing that, I can do that instead now. But the reality is, it's not going to make me fly any safer. It's not going to make me any safer unless the light aircraft, the guys who literally fly from the local airfields, have it on board. Then overall, it's not going to dramatically change safety. Then again, having more data, you can never have too much data, they say. So,
sorry, and then you fall on the data overload. So you have so much data that you start ignoring.
Yeah.
Yes. I think. Well, it's about creating a better air picture as well. And we should have had Richard from Altitude Angel on. And we're talking about modern skies and all that sort of thing. It is shown though that by fitting both transponders, Mode S, Standard, and ADS-B, when an aircraft has that fitted and turned on, generally they start behaving a little bit better because people know they can be watched better. So there is a slight element of increase in safety on the manned aviation front. When they trialed it in Alaska, safety went up by like 60% or something like that. But that trial, remember, dear kids, was back in the 90s.
I do think there's also a bit of, if we equip every drone or majority of drones, we can then go to manned aviation and say, hey, you really need to take this on board now because we've done our bit. And I think that's probably where the largest bit of this is. But I'm very resistant.
You want transponders or receivers?
On drones, I agree that ADS-B in is enough. I 100% agree it's enough.
So the thing is, so are we going to force ultralights to start sharing?
They're going to have to be. There will be some form of electronic conspicuity for gliders and ultralights, be it ADS-B or something newer. Hi there, Rybat. It will come, or as Rybat knows, even satellite-based stuff for stuff that's over the Ogden. It will come. That will be part of the modern electronic sky. I really can see that being a thing. And we are modern digital devices. Why on earth are we strapping ourselves to and balloons? Yeah, I've flown balloons with Charlie S, but not ADS-B, to be honest. I'd
keep this simple. I'd keep this as simple as, if there is a human life on board, it requires it. It's that easy to, if you'll never legislate for every kind of aircraft or everything. You make it simple. If there's a human life on board, it requires it. It requires it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I don't know. Bruce is being quiet. Nicola is just considering his lost aeroplanes. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
There's only one.
There's only one lost aeroplane. Is it still lost? No, it must be gone. Come on, Nicola.
Yeah.
Long gone.
Still lost. Well, nobody knows really. It's sort of.
Hang on. What do you mean nobody knows? A lot of people know. If you don't know, if you haven't got it, and you don't know where it is.
It's something like, it's sort of similar to Schrodinger's cat, but this is Schrodinger's plane, because nobody's seen it, nobody knows where it is. Might as well be in a box, and you never know if it's alive or dead.
Is it Schrodinger's cat or Eisenberg?
If it looks like a cat, you'll never find it up there, or it'll walk off. You'll never find it.
Well, it's either there or not there, but since I'm not going there, haven't been there to look for it yet, I don't know if it's still up there. So it could be. It is both there and not there at the same time. So you get the drift.
Yeah, you lost your model on the mountain. That's what you did. Tell us about that new one before, because I want to get news from everybody else. I want to delay before I go in a complete rant about the graphic that I used at the beginning for the title for this video, because poor old bad actor there he's selling up his house in New Zealand and going to England, getting ready to make his fortune. he's seen. But tell us about that Nicola, that aircraft you just released a video on today.
The Mini Crosswind.
That one.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say it is a worthy successor and has been designed, better than the big one. And I am hoping that some of these changes might find their way to the big Crosswind eventually, like a version 2 or something. Will probably require small alterations to the injection molding things, but I don't think it's impossible to do, and wouldn't be Charles' first modification given the ordeal with the tail that happened last year. But the plane itself is pretty stunning, like flight-wise, performance-wise, stall-wise, absolutely stunning. I wasn't able to make it do anything bad. And actually, the only thing that, it's not my first time doing this on a maiden flight, but in this case, it was a brand new plane with a brand new autopilot that I do not know. I'm using the MyFlyDream autopilot for the first time ever. And the tracker doesn't really matter, but with a brand new radio system, the Dragonfly thing. So, maiden flight, I do an auto takeoff, and it's perfect. I mean, in every way, because you get the autopilot and you've got presets, and he's been kind enough to actually save the preset for the Mini Crosswind and pretty much every other plane that he makes in the settings. So you basically just load that up and you're ready to go. And yeah, depending on the use case, etc., or personal preference, you can change some of the settings of the autopilot, how it stabilizes, etc., etc. But from what I saw right now, you basically get the plane, plug everything, and because this was made all by the same person, everything fits together without the need to modify shit. And
that's a technical term, is it?
Yeah. And yeah, if I had gotten actually the MyFlyDream Link radio system, his version of a 433 megahertz radio system, I'm pretty certain there would have been even more plug and play. But right now I had to do some custom cables for the Dragon Link receiver. But that's about it. Everything else was absolutely plug and play.
And what sort of money then? What sort of money would that go for then, as a plug and play autopilot aircraft and his radio as well? What would that all be?
Well, on his website, the plane is, hold on, it's about $150. I'm not sure what shipping is, so I'm just talking about the prices on the website. So the airplane is $150, and I absolutely recommend everybody to get an antenna tracker, because this thing, it's a life changer, especially if you're doing long range. And I would argue that with the tiny OSD module that you can actually use it with any autopilot system, this thing would be awesome for racers as well, because it would allow you to have a really high gain antenna pointed at the copter all the time. And really that issue with losing signal, etc., would not be present. It's one thing to have a dish on your goggles, quite another to have that on a tracker next to you, and it would rotate it in the direction of the plane. So that's $160. The autopilot's $180, and the MyFlyDream Link, the control system is, I have no idea. It's 150 as well. So
hey, Nicola, with the tracker, I mean, I've always looked at trackers. If you build a four-way diversity with helical antennas, you can get all the benefits of a tracker, unless you want to fly behind yourself, all the benefits of a tracker without the risk of losing the video link and therefore losing the tracking information. Because once you lose it, how do you reacquire it if it's at the limits of range? So why did you go for a tracker instead of a four-way diversity?
Actually,
no.
So basically, with the tracker, you're looking at just over $600 for this thing. Well, no, wait. The power pack is okay. So probably around $700 and something for the plane, the power pack, and everything else that you need to actually get it flying. And with the motors from the power pack, I'm assuming at least hour and a half flight, depending on battery. I have some information about some people that have done a 4-hour flight with this plane using some custom wound motors at 500 kV and a larger battery. And that is quite impressive for something that weighs that is 1.6 meters. And I was quite surprised how stable that thing was in the air at 3 kilograms, because in the past I haven't had the same experience with other models and at this weight or even a little bit less. But this thing is awesome. Okay, what
room would it have for a mapping camera? Is it not? I'm not conversant with the thing.
Oh, it's actually a pretty big space in there. It's about that big, probably 20 or 25 centimeters long by whatever the fuselage width is. And that whole space is just dedicated for a camera, and you even have a servo bed in the foam, so you can do shutter or something like that if that cannot be controlled by the autopilot directly.
Because this is the week. I don't know if you saw the report where one of the big outlets said, "Oh, the UAV hype, it's all over. It's finished. It's ended. It's the end of the industry. It's the end of the world as we know it." So I would rather say that it's all got rather mature and things are actually working. And you buy this thing, because we're talking sub $1,000, aren't we, for a very capable mapping aircraft with all the gadgets that you need. I would argue it's mature.
It's not the frame or the motors or the flying. It's the package.
He has
having a tracker, for instance. It's only good for you to know on which mountain you lose the plane, because, like Bruce said, you can get away with good antennas. But the thing is, do they have a pack that they can offer to their customers? Does the pack include anything else besides the frame, like the software and all the processing that is required? Because otherwise, it's just another bunch of wires and chips.
Yeah, but it's different from anything that is on offer now, because you get those wires and bits and you just do click and go flying. Everything else you have to solder a lot.
Oh, come on. If you go and buy one professional package, for instance, from Parrot, that they sell the Disco.
Okay, but no, come on.
It's what you want. Otherwise, it's only for us tinkerers that want to play around.
Well, not really, because I am talking to Charles quite a lot, especially now with this build, and there was actually a bug on the antenna tracker firmware, and I went out flying. I discovered the bug. He fixed it. Next morning, I go out flying. I'm running the new firmware that no longer acts that way. What?
Sorry, Nico, you've also got to remember, in China, they're selling boatloads of things to various government agencies. So I wouldn't mind betting that they're lining some of these products up for that very purpose.
Oh, no, they are. They are. And that's not a secret. Actually, part of the time he's developing stuff for agencies and services there. That's why he's missing in action some of the time. And that's not a secret. I mean, it's part of the job. And but because of that, we actually get products that do work. I mean, I haven't needed support for the first antenna tracker, and I've had it for 3 or 4 years now. It has worked perfectly. And right now, off the bat, autopilot antenna tracker, well, the firmware still needs a bit more ironing, but it's getting there, and it's getting there quick. And it has a lot more new functions, but it just works. I mean, you plug everything in and it just works. And it was easy to set up. It was easy to get it ready for flight. And that auto takeoff is working pretty sweet. And, for me to trust it with an auto takeoff on a maiden flight of a plane, I have no idea what could happen in the air. I have no idea what that autopilot can do, because it's not Arduplane. I can put together Arduplane with my eyes closed, and because I've set up like 10,000 of those, I know what to expect. But this was a brand new thing, and it worked perfectly out of the box, which only goes to show that pretty much every other idiot with very limited knowledge of these things can get a plane flying with a system like this. Now, he did say that he was going to... What?
Even Bruce?
Yeah, even Bruce. Surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, he did say that he was going to look into selling an assembled plane with some custom wound motors and everything needed for a 4-hour flight. So basically, you'd be able to purchase that, and then, well, the 4-hour flight would depend on the battery you want to run in there and the additional gear you want to use. But this would be, a version of the plane with some of the gear on there that is confirmed to be able to do a 4-hour flight. Which, for this size, because this thing breaks down in a few seconds, and
that's my next question.
And breaks down quite compactly, because it's a short body compared to the big one, and it's a shorter wingspan, and it does show. And for me at least, it was comfortable to hold while throwing it in the air, which is a big plus. It's a good size. I mean, it's a damn good size, and because it's a smaller plane, less drag, and it is quick. I had a hell of a time trying to catch up to it with the drone to get some nice aerials, and in auto mode it just doesn't slow down. It just flies very quickly. So I had to have my friend fly it, and he actually had it stalled the whole time I was trying to catch up to it. He had it flying like Harrier pretty much the whole time, and it was still not an easy job to catch up.
So what sort of speed is it moving at then in the cruise?
Easily 60 kilometers an hour and above, easily.
Okay. And
I'm running right now 10/7 props.
And do you think that at that speed you can do any sort of useful mapping missions?
This is I honestly have no idea, because I have no reference for mapping, because I've never done that. So really have no idea what the requirements are, but it depends on the specific task. I'm saying 60 plus, but it can probably do over 100 easy. Then that would
it needs to slow down a bit.
Quite a bit.
Nicola, a couple of things. Do you know what software they're using on the flight controller then? Is there a ground station with it, or?
No, it's the firmware is not open source. It's his firmware, and he's developing it, but it is compatible to some extent with Mission Planner. It does support Mavlink. Yeah, it does support Mavlink, and you can actually program missions.
So it's PX4. So it's PX4.
No, it's probably a fork. Either Autopilot or PX4.
Yeah, it's got to be one of those.
It has more to do with the old version, and that one was pretty old and had nothing to do with Autopilot. But it is compatible. It was compatible with Mavlink back then, because you were able to send packages from the antenna tracker to Mission Planner and actually see the plane on the map. Now you can have a direct connection from the Autopilot to Mission Planner, so you can program maps, but there are very few parameters you can actually modify, if at all, because most of the programming is done via the OSD and your radio stick input, etc.
Next question.
Quite convenient.
how are they making money at that price? Because the one interesting thing from this is that it sounds like a good package, sounds like everything you'd want to build if you were building one yourself. Yet you said we're talking like a few $100s here, even 500-600. It's not a lot of money, is it, for an all-in-one package?
Well, you do have to put it together, at least at this stage, and I'm assuming the plug and play version, or almost ready to fly version, would be priced a little higher, although you might be getting all of that in a single package actually, and might get a discount because of that. But really, that's not a question I can answer because I'm just a user of the product. I'm not involved with the company and pricing, etc. So yeah, might be government sponsored.
Well, I know that there was a contract for 1,000 flying wings for police stations, for instance, that a lot of them were going for. So I'm sure, and there was a contract for 600 mapping platforms for one agency. So that all of these companies are pushing for those contracts.
Yeah, the thing is, and you know better than me, Gary, that you do for flying missions. You have to come up very, very slow. You have to come up to 20 kilometers or around that.
But maybe we're preempting what the thing was designed for. Maybe it wasn't designed for mapping at all. Maybe it was designed as a radio relay, or it could be for something else in that space.
Actually, the plane can slow down. Well, like I said, depends on what you want to do with it and how you want to do it. If it's too fast, you can go a little higher and use a narrower lens. I don't know. I'm not into mapping. I have no idea how that works. I'm just speaking out of how I assume things work out. If you have a narrow lens, you go higher. If you have a plane, you go higher.
It's complicated, Nicola, because theoretically you cannot go above the 400 feet. So that limits what you can do. And if you to get a good GSD, you'll have to use a lens, and then that limits your speed. To remember, I asked you a couple of months ago about that plane. You were very excited at the time. I don't remember the name. It was the dual body one. I don't remember. It was a foamy that you were excited at the time. And I asked you about the stall speed. And the stall speed was quite higher than the minimum that would be possible to get a good mapping platform.
Well, this thing really doesn't... I have no idea. I'll have to check the OSD recording. At what speed did it start to stall? But the thing is that I don't have a DVR recording of most of the flights because the new tracker required some modifications to make it work with my wireless relay, and I didn't have time and was a bit too lazy to get that done before flying. So basically I had to use a monitor that does not record the incoming video. And what I have is what I recorded with my phone shooting at the monitor. And at that time, I wasn't really doing stall testing. But I can repeat that test now that I've done the wireless relay thing and tell you exactly what the stall speed is. But it can go pretty slow.
Has it got flaps?
No.
Could it have flaps? Or is it not? Is there a space for
I wouldn't cut into the wing any more than it already is cut.
So it doesn't come ready for them then.
No. You'd have to do that modification all on your own if you want to.
And Rybat's just mentioning the believers in the comments. We learned a bit of a trick with believers this week. If you're using ArduPilot, using the VTEL mixing, we transform the thing and able to map just shy of 3,000 hectares now with them. I can't. Well, I'm interested to hear if this platform is like a new Believer, better than a Believer.
The Believer, in my experience, Yeah, it is a good plane, but in my experience, at least, it wasn't very happy at slower speeds. So
it's not as fast as that, though. It's not as fast as you're going there.
Yeah, this thing is quick, and my mind went, okay, so at those speeds, and it does glide through the air pretty easy, and you can see that. I mean, I'm comparing it to the big crosswind, and you can tell this one picks up speed really easy. It's sort of like the Talon GT, same thing. That thing's just asking to go quick. You can't slow it down. And the Dart XL, the big crosswind wasn't like that. And the Believer somewhere in the middle, it can go quick, but it doesn't like to slow down, at least below some value, because I've had it tip stalling a few times.
Oh, really? But how heavy are you flying them? And we're up to
wasn't heavy at all.
6 kilos.
Just a battery and a camera in there. But my mind went, okay, so this thing can fly over 1.5 hours, weighs 3 kilograms, running the same gear as on the Believer, but has less drag, and it is quicker. So I'll be able to get up to the clouds quicker. So that was my line of reasoning. You know, mapping isn't really.
You'll be getting to the top of the mountain much quicker.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Mapping isn't the first thing I think about.
Let me try to understand something, Nicola, and you are the right guy to ask this. So sorry for put you on the spot. How does one compare these kinds of planes? Like, for instance, the foamy gliders from Multiplex, the Soleus or the Aeron, because those are roomy inside. You can get away putting a 6000 series camera of Sony on them, and you have room enough to put a small flight controller. So, and you can fly with the Soleus 3 hours with a 2200 battery. So how does one compare with these kinds of foamies made in China by a German company?
Well, like I already mentioned a few times, I'm not really into mapping, so
No, it's not. It's just a general question. So you pick up a Soleus or an Aeron, which are 2 meters.
For me it doesn't matter, because okay, sorry, getting distracted reading reading comments. For me, it doesn't matter how much space there's inside, as long as I can fit an Omnibus F4 Pro in there. And then you need space for a few cables so you can run the servos and power the video system. And, you know, at the very least, that's an FPV camera that's yay big, and a video transmitter that's about the same size. So the gear I use, the gear that was mounted on the big crosswind, and that was like 4 kilogram plus plane that went lost in the mountain, was the same gear, same flight controller, same video transmitter, same camera that was mounted on my Mini R wing. So that's a 60 centimeter wing and a 2 meter wingspan plane, completely different weight and purpose, that's running the same autopilot and the same video system. So I'm I don't know, I'm comparing planes efficiency, flight performance, stuff like that. I'm not really digging into how do you compare the internal space. I don't have any standard for internal space because I use it for batteries pretty much. Everything else is minimal.
Like I asked you, the Soleus and the Aeron are regular gliders, gliders.
You wouldn't get an A7 into one of those, so would you?
Sorry?
You wouldn't get an A7 camera into one of those, though, would you?
No, you don't get an A7. And I believe you won't get an A7 on that 1600 millimeters plane that of Nicola, because
you might get one on a Believer.
I think you might be able to fit that. Yeah, I think you might be able to fit that in there.
It's almost a kilo of camera.
Yeah, but 800 odd grams, isn't it?
I'm pretty certain. knowing how it flies right now at 3 kilograms, I'm pretty certain it will have absolutely no problem carrying 1 more kilo of something, be it batteries or the camera, because that 4-hour flight was done with a 2.1 kilogram battery, and the battery I'm running in there now is 800 grams. So that's 300 more. That's 1,300 grams more than what my plane weighs, and apparently it flew.
Yeah, but Nicola, again, putting you on the spot. The thing is, when you fly mapping, you fly a pattern. So most likely you won't ever get 4 hours flight time on a mapping plane.
Okay.
You will.
Flying a pattern, you go upwind, downwind, all that. So do you see beyond the geekiness of such a plane a viable entry on a somewhat professional or half professional user base?
Well, the thing is, the smaller the drag of a plane, the less those conditions will affect it. I mean, going downwind will affect it. Going against the wind will slow it down less, making it more efficient in that direction. So a smaller plane in those conditions would probably perform better, but you have to have like less area that can drag air. I'm not like wings, flying wings, appear thin and all of that, but they've got huge amounts of just area that's in contact with the wind, creating drag. And the big crosswind was indeed pretty huge, and I really didn't have it long enough to be able to do any notable efficiency testing, but I am certain it would probably be close to what the Believer could do. The Believer is a bit more compact and probably has a little less drag, but the crosswind, the big one, was the better flyer in terms of stability, which, as I understand, isn't hugely important when doing mapping for a number of reasons. The difference wasn't big, but I could see it, especially in turbulent conditions. And the mini crosswind right now has less drag, which means that in the same conditions, it would run more efficiently than a larger plane. And depending on what the mission is and what the flight time needs to be, that could actually be the better option. But it depends on a number of factors. Into this plane, for its size and that weight, in turbulent conditions, because I maiden it in very nasty conditions, and the following days it was the same. It was just turbulent, and any other plane would have been not a pleasant experience. But this thing, I kept switching between stabilized and manual mode. I don't have a single click of trim on this thing. Everything I mechanically trimmed before flying it, like making the control surfaces flush with the rest of the wing or the tail, etc. That's it. I haven't touched the trims on the radio. I haven't adjusted that. It just go between stabilize and manual, and it doesn't do anything. It just keeps flying straight, and that's in turbulent conditions.
Well, I think the bottom line, Patrick's in the comment to sort of hear this as well, is the bottom line is, haven't we come a long way? For sub $1,000 US, you can get very, very capable machines now. Something that the US military would have told us 10, 15 years ago was a $50,000, $60,000 machine. You can pick up. So things are improving, and so other than that terrible forecast which said things are all falling apart at the moment, I don't see it at all. Patrick's also where's his burrito? Yes, where's his burrito? Don't get me started. Well, in fact, let's get me started on UrbanNet. Let's try and share the screen. Let's try and see if we can share this. How does that work? Is that sharing, kids? There we are. That's it, but it's very small. Can anyone read that out in the internet land?
My wife keeps saying.
Sorry, say again, mate.
That's what my wife keeps saying, what you just said.
Oh, I see. I see. You just say, but you're very far away.
Yes, that's it.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Well, that tiny image, I wonder if I can share it bigger. Let's see. Let's see if I can do that. What's that? Well, it's not much bigger, is it? But there we are. Well, should we do that? No, we don't want to do that. Oh, there we are. All right. Okay. We'll leave it like that. Basically, this is a Frost and Sullivan graphic, a forecast that they had for this year. And I don't know when they did it, but it's been used in the UK in a thing called Catapult, which is an accelerator sort of a thing. And where can we get it? Let's get it there. That's all gone horribly wrong. Let's leave it there like that. And it says it's in it's in dollars. It's in dollars. So the bottom line here is we're going to get paid $12 an hour. So what do we say to that to start with?
I think it's Frost and Sullivan. Is it a comedy duo or something? What's going on here?
Hinge and Bracket, yeah.
Sorry, $12 for Chinese wages is a lot of money.
I don't think it's a lot of money in the UK. My eldest, I've got graphics of that.
Don't worry, Ian is about to do cast sale out of Europe, so we might take his island back to China.
I've got this up on my phone, so I'm having a look at it in front of me now. And where do you start with this thing? Right. Estimate 1.5 billion packages are delivered across the UK, all probably from Amazon for the most part. So we're all obsessed with Amazon. Premium packages delivered, an additional 150 million. And that seems to be what they're basing this on, is a premium service. So they're looking to skim more money for getting you same day delivery within the cities. And the interesting thing is, if you look at this infographic, whatever they call it, there was a distance, they're saying all with a less than 10 miles range. 10 miles. You know what is ever going to be quicker than a man in a van at 10 miles? A man on a bike at 10 miles. A man on a skateboard at 10 miles is going to be quicker than a drone. Surely to hell. They're estimating 10,000 deliveries per drone per year, and there's no bake into this at all about maintenance. Have you noticed that they're saying that a drone would do approximately, where are we here? Did they say the hours? Number of drones required?
It's doing 15 hours a day.
Yeah, that's
360 days a year.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tesla batteries. Welcome.
So they're being flown by Indians through teleworking, are they?
Yeah.
Well, I think the bottom line with this graphic is, and I'm sorry, dear viewer, if you can't see it close up, the bottom line with this graphic is this was created a couple of years ago, and it was part of the bid for saying 5G is a great thing. We should all have 5G, 10G, 15G, or whatever. 5G is a wonderful thing. And this is what they were expecting to happen this year. This was their 2019 concept. And quite honestly, I think, sorry, Ian, but I think this is why we're quite getting these ridiculous regulations and things, which for some obscure reason people in England seem to have woken up to yesterday. I don't quite understand why they've just woken up to them. But this is what politicians are being told. Oh no, by 2019 the sky will look like this and we'll all be earning an absolute fortune. Therefore, we need the sky, please. And I think this is where all this nonsense has come from. I'm going to stop ranting now.
Yeah, I know a multi-drop driver at one point was getting between 50p and 75p a package, and they're estimating the cost per delivery here is £10.24. So why on earth would anyone want to use a drone to deliver when it's going to cost over 10 times the cost? Even they're
missing the aircraft €16 per flight fee as well. So straight away, I don't know what 16 euros is in dollars, but probably $16. So that would take it up to 26 straight away.
That's £300 today.
It's
tomorrow be £4,000. Yeah,
it's utter bollocks. And the more you look at it, the more you find fault with it, and you just go, if someone, is this a business plan? If it's a business plan and they've managed to lift someone of money for this, well, I tell you what, they're never getting that back. That's for sure. But you just 360 days of operation, 360 days. That's 4 days down in total. just for that's insanity, utter insanity. Okay, it's
well, what infographic? Well, how we? The thing is, we're missing out on an opportunity to make money out of this gig because we could make something up like this. We just got to get it in front of the right people and make it up.
I've said it time and time again. The people who are making money in the drone industry is making up bollocks like this, frankly, because that's where the biggest money is coming from. Is people trying to sell a dream of something that's never going to happen. They're selling snake oil. They're selling every form of snake oil they can get. Sorry, I'm ranting on this myself now.
That'll be all right. I'm stopping myself. I'm biting my own fingers in.
I think you guys are all right. I looked at this and I've sold up my pension scheme and I'm investing heavily in the future. Drone futures are where the money is, mate.
I just don't get, why would you want a drone to deliver a package on a city? So let's just take London. I've just come back from London last week. Okay, let's take London, for instance. Heavily congested. You could argue probably an ideal place to have some form of other way of getting around it because of the traffic. Yet, it's the busiest airspace in the country, for starters. So why would you want to put drones there? Secondly, there's nothing quicker than a kid on a moped who's probably getting 50p or 60p or something like that. Or it just, I don't understand where you look at, they're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. This whole career thing is trying to solve a problem. And as you say, £10 an hour, $10 an hour, whatever it was, there's $12 an hour minimum wage.
Well, it's not. My son's working in Sainsbury's. He's over there now. He's got a sort of a job in Sainsbury's 3 days a week, and they pay more than the minimum wage. They pay the living wage.
Living wage.
So he's nearly on that sort of money stacking shelves in Sainsbury's. Why would you bother? Why would you bother being, qualified and all that, and all the headaches you'd have?
How much does the CFI get? How much does a flight instructor get? How much do these? Aviation has always preyed on the fact that the people who are doing the work are doing it because they love what they're doing and not because they want to get rich. Apart from airline pilots who are drones, I mean, most people in the aviation industry are there. It's like when I went to California, when I went to LA, everybody was only waiting tables and things because they were waiting for their big job as an actor. And everybody in the aviation industry is just doing the cheap jobs because they're building their hours to get a real job. And the same's going to happen with drones.
Yeah, and okay, there are always going to be, there's some fantastic use cases. Patrick mentioned it there about medical.
Yeah.
We all know that could change people's lives. There's no question about that. But this whole bollocks of every Amazon package is going to be delivered by a drone. I've had 3 Amazon deliveries this week because they messed up, and literally, so I that means I'd be sitting here going, right, there's going to be a drone turning up in a minute. Wait there. Oh no, it's missing my garden. It's in the tree. Oh shit! Right, phone them up. Can you send another one, please?
No, they don't even deliver drones by drone. So the day they start delivering drones by drone, I'll start believing it. And like Patrick said, the medical delivery is a fringe case. Because it works in Africa, like we've seen. There are people already doing it with planes, not with drones. And it's a fringe case. So there will be fringe cases where the usage of unmanned vehicle might be useful. I don't see it as a broad adoption. We won't be seeing the skies littered with Amazon, Pizza Hut, or Chipotle drones flying all over. I really don't see it.
Well, and Patrick's saying he still likes the kid on a Chinese motorcycle, and in town that'll probably work. But there's Lake Victoria Challenge news, which I can't actually give out now. I will be able to in about 12 hours time. But there are places in the world where on in a rainy season, in a green season, you'll even struggle on that Chinese motorcycle. And the medical, as Louis says, it is an edge case. It is working. It does work. It will make a difference, but it's not going to make anybody a fortune. And unfortunately, the people that
let's bring back to reality to that case of the medical drone delivery in Africa. okay, we have the human cost, so the need to put things at the right moment, at the right place. How much does that operation cost? If it would be privately funded, would be viable? Would any company run that at what cost per delivery?
I don't know. I'll try. Zipline are very good at not saying what each of their deliveries cost. They're very good at not saying how many crashes they've had. They're very good at not saying anything about their business.
Not even that. Okay, crashes is part of the development cost. That's it. And you recoup the cost of development during the professional sales of the service. That's normal business practice. The thing is, how much does it cost to do one single delivery? That's all I wanted to know, because I tried to do some calculations like 2 or 3 years ago, and the numbers I came up were ridiculous. Any UPS van, I wouldn't be able to compare with the cost of the lease of a van. So
yeah, funny old thing.
I think we always agree, you know, there are fringe cases in every country. In the UK, there's probably cases where you could look at and go off the islands in Scotland and things like that. But again, it's looking at what are we doing and then can a drone improve that? Just to put out a blanket thing saying there's going to be 10 million drone deliveries in the next 3 years, it's just insanity. It's
not the next 3 years. This year.
Yes,
that was
this year. That was
this year.
Now, to go back to the we had 3 beams. It was the AI, blockchain, and what was
Bruce
the other one?
Yeah.
Bruce Chain.
Gatwick.
No.
We've always got to mention Gatwick.
And I think Gary's underestimating the effects of the Christmas sales this year.
Yeah, let's add the delivery to that bucket too. So,
hang on, let's put it. We do have to create a bingo card, don't we? So it's blockchain, AI, delivery drones. All right, I'll keep going. If you want to put in a comment,
nano something.
Unmanned.
Add the word nano to anything.
Carbon nanotubes with graphene. That's it.
Drone registration.
No. Drone registration. Yeah.
Ian, if you don't want to go to drone registration, try to go to Belgium or Mexico or Spain, and you'll know what drone registration is.
Don't. Our many friends in the UK have woke up. I think. Pardon me, I'm starting to choke. I'm going already. Thinking about it, I'm going already.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
I think I understand the reason why this has suddenly become a problem, and Gary will probably know where I'm going at. Some might say that there's been a beta test of a certain system behind closed doors. I can't really talk about it, so I'll stop there. But info has leaked out as a result of that, and it's almost like the model aircraft community has woke up and gone, hold on a minute, registration? Yeah. So, sorry, we've missed this. Hello?
I don't know where to start with it. Yeah, some people are doing the questions for a proposed exam, or not proposed, it's starting in November, and the questions are out there, and they're known. Around and about, but I dare not speak of any, and they're rubbish. They were made by people that have absolutely, they're not from any branch of our world, be it commercial drone users down to lowly BMFA with FPV in the middle. They're not from, it can't be from any branch. And yeah, but how do you think that's got the BMFA people annoyed?
Well, it's simple, isn't it? They're going to have to register, and everyone's required, and that's the killer here, isn't it? It's everyone, and it's model aircraft users as well. And I think there's been a thought.
We knew that when the processes were happening.
But I think the
BMFA sent a letter to every member, and only was it 12? It was the biggest response the CAA's ever had to anything. It was only 11 or 12,000 people, and they weren't all BMFA members that wrote in.
It's a classic example of the industry sticking its head in the sand and then waking up when it's too late, unfortunately.
But was the BMFA expecting an exemption? And there's a club registration thing as well, isn't there? Were they expecting more than they got in terms of being a dodger?
I don't know. I don't know that that's really panning out as they thought it would. I don't know. What's your take on that, Ian? The idea that a club could sign themselves up as the responsible user.
The issue with that is that person will be legally responsible for every member and what they do. And that means if one of them does something silly, they're going to court on their behalf. There's no in between. You would have to be insane to do that as a club.
I nominate Gary.
You know, there appears to be an option that you can register as an organization. Now that I think is in place for training schools or multiple commercial operators, for instance, and you'll have the responsible person. However, that person will be legally obliged to ensure those people are flying safely.
So what happens in the case of like a legal entity? In this country, we get like an incorporated society as a legal entity into itself. So if the club's incorporated as a legal entity, then surely it would be that entity, not the people. It's a way of indemnifying yourself, like a business when you become a limited liability company. Can't you do that?
We don't really have that. We have a limited company, but there is always a director and has to be a company secretary as well. And it always falls to the director's responsibility. So you would assume like the BFMA would be a limited company just purely because of the type of organization it is. Yet there would always be someone responsible. Now, liability-wise, you could argue they'd only be limited for £1. So if someone's to set up a business as a limited liability company, they'd be responsible for, say, £1 of financial damages. But try getting someone to insure them for that, or try and get someone to accept that they hold no personal liability, because it then becomes corporate responsibility, and you could end up then being sued for corporate, well, if it hits someone, for instance, corporate manslaughter. Frankly, if someone was to set it up as a business, it would be treated as a business, and corporate manslaughter laws come in if it was an issue. So
I heard so under 250 grams doesn't require registration, but what if you have a camera on a sub 250? Is that required registration? Or is it because
Yep. I can't remember now. Data protection laws, yes.
Gathering, isn't it?
Yes, data gathering. It's interesting that I think the model community assumed they were getting a free pass on this. I think there was a lot of assumption they were going to be left alone, and they saw little bits of it and thought, damn drone users, that won't affect us. And the reality is every one of them will be paying £16.50 or whatever the fee will be. But a lot of them are saying, well, they're not going to do it. Well, at the end of the day, every commercial operator in the UK will be required to. And frankly, we have already signed ourselves up to pay a license, a commercial operations license. They know who we are. So if any commercial operator says, I'm not going to do this, I'm expecting them to hear from the CAA at the end of the day, because they have 4,800 roughly members. They know have to sign up. I have to. Even if I wanted to abstain from it as a commercial operator, how can I say I'm a commercial operator yet not do drone registration? I can't. With regards to everyone else, there's a lot of people saying they're not going to do it. How will you police that? You never will. But they're never going to.
Talking about fish to fry, Patrick, I know there's a bit of a delay on this. But the thing that's being held up is people are now quickly saying, yeah, but to get a rod license in the UK to go fishing is about 50, 60 quid a year. And, it's just the same sort of thing and much cheaper. But what they're missing is that rod license, actually a portion of that goes to bailiffs that look after the river systems, and it goes back into the system, into the rivers, and are looking after the fish. This £16.50 or whatever it is going straight into the pocket of the CAA to pay for the. Well, how is the fees? It's 2.8 million to run it per year, and it 4 million to set up, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I can't remember the numbers now.
Yeah.
They're actually taxing the very air we breathe. That was always a joke. Next thing they'll be taxing the air we breathe. Well, they are.
And it's interesting how it blew up in the last 2 days. I think a couple of us spotted it, and it was like a couple of commercial operators were getting confused. They were they weren't sure if they have to register or not. And the reality is, everyone will have to register. If it flies as a model aircraft of any sort, you've got to register less than 250 grams. So it's
who owns the natural resource? That's a really good question, Patrick, because it's supposed to be equal access to the sky for all.
America owns all the natural resources.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's true.
That's why Donald Trump's satellite can fly over where was it, Iran or wherever it was, and take pictures, but we can't fly drones over our neighbours' backyards and do the same thing.
We're paying for an incident that never happened, that has still yet to have been proved to have happened, yet government have forced through legislation to prevent it happening again, yet the legislation won't make an ounce of difference to it happening in the first place. So we're paying for something that never happened, never existed, and it's entirely based off scaremongering of a number of MPs, and that's the position we're in, frankly.
Well, it's people with a thing to sell.
Someone think of the children, please.
Exactly, you're exactly right. He pulled up to avoid the school before he crashed. Earlier Ryback mentioned Jonathan has a thing about 7 problems with counter UAS, and that's part of the problem. They're a big part of that. So we've got, as we've discussed, that little graphic. We've got the people that want to deliver stuff via drones. So clear the sky. Then we've got people that want to stop us hitting airliners. Oh, we've got a gadget for that. There's been 2 sightings at Gatwick last week. Yep. Well, Gatwick supposedly got bajillion-dollar counter UAS gear in there now, so we should know exactly who that was, where they were flying, and what it was. Otherwise, it's not working. No, there's too much vested interest that's scared. Well, preaching to converted, aren't they? That have talked it all up, and it's just a pity. It's just a pity. Patrick banged on in America for years, and AMA people ignored it there, and we've all banged on about it now, and BMFA people have ignored it in the UK. So people end up getting almost what they deserve.
Never happened here in New Zealand. Never happened here.
No, it won't happen with Nicola either.
Well, he just won't listen.
I don't know how that Nicola has handled mountains.
I'm not against registry. Do I actually? The registration doesn't bother me. Do I care putting my name on another list? I'm on more. I'm on more lists than I can shake a stick at.
Yeah,
so terrible. Yeah.
About that, yes.
But do I care about 1650? No. My whole concern with this whole thing from day one is what's happening with the data, which I still don't know. I honestly, I've either forgotten what is happening with the data now. I think I've actually forgotten. I've read that much on this. When something happens around the corner from me, I'm expecting my door to be kicked in. That's the reality I'm at now. So some kid's going to fly a drone over a house a mile away from me, and they're going to look because I'm the only idiot who's registered, and they're going to come and kick my door in.
But that's West Wales for you.
But that's West Wales for me. They'd have done that anyway. But
yeah. And there's a Merry Christmas. But
the battering lamb.
Battering lamb, very good. Do you get them in a chip shop? I do think I recall that that this very expensive database doesn't interface correctly with the police database. I do think I recall hearing something about that.
So there's a bonus there.
Yeah, some bonus extra. I do believe the police have to make written requests of it to get the data in order to catch whoever. But Patrick also asked earlier about who's going to enforce it. It will be the UK police. But what also comes with this, which I don't think people are picking up on, there's increased police powers to search, arrest, and even stop you on the suspicion of having whatever.
And the big one, Gary, was force you to land, which again I still don't agree with. They can force you to land, yet as the pilot in command and a qualified commercial operator, that police officer who has no experience at all can tell me I must land now. Yet if I deem it's unsafe to do so, if I choose to ignore him, I could be arrested.
And that will make you good, so that you'll be able to start obeying to the law. That way you won't be speeding any longer on the highway. So it's okay.
Oh, well, I don't know. I just think it's nonsense. Growing up, I would have been crashing model airplanes left, right, and centre in South Somerset, and to have caught up with all this trivia, it's ridiculous. I've already seen some youngsters in panic on the BMFA site saying, "Well, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?" And and saying the obvious things of my parents aren't interested in being registered because if you're under 18, your parent or guardian is going to have to get themselves through the process and be the grown-up in the whole situation. And that's just...
I probably won't be popular for this, but I don't think the BFMA have done enough, frankly, for their members. I'm a member and I've got the book. It's been very little on it. It should have been a front cover thing this month, last month, every month. At the end of the day, it's coming. We know it's coming now. We've known about it coming for a good 3-4 months properly since the end of the consultation. At the end of the day, there's no reason for this to be the situation it's in now. At the end of the day, it's law. We're going to have to comply. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, even Bruce put a video out. So, I mean, come on, you can't say fairer than that, can you? You can't say fairer than that. So what other news did we see, dear fellows, in this last week of...
What about the Air Cunnilingus pilots that had a near miss with
the where?
A drone?
And say that airline again. What did you say?
Tongue.
I thought that's what he said.
Did he say Aer Lingus?
Something like that, yeah. Something like that.
They're cunning, those pilots. Anyway, the guy that was flying saw a drone and had to make a sudden swerve of up to 8 degrees, but it might have been 5 degrees to miss the drone. And he was on approach at 200 and something knots. Yeah, but he managed to swerve and missed it by 100 feet. Work out the accelerations and tell me if he's telling the truth.
Yeah, well, the 19th is when the Airprox board are having their meeting with Simon Dale and the others in the UK. And I believe I've already seen that they've managed to get the Airprox board to start thinking about changing their wording and what they're saying. So if that's the case, and that's already a win. In fact, Simon Dale, I should have found a link to it. There is, if you're in the UK, you really should support him. Send him a little bit of money, and
I'll find it now.
I'm worried about what we're looking at in those goggles.
Virtual reality.
Is that the Anafi goggles? Is it?
No, just the phone.
But the Anafi FPV is a thing that's arrived. So why are you showing us your? I don't understand, Louis.
Was it you in 3D, Louis?
No, because we have the FPV expert here, so we want to have his expert opinion on that.
The Anafi FPV?
No, of FPV in general. Will it be a way to pilot the delivery drones?
No, of course not. It'll all be done with waypoints and automated processes and things. That's why the pilots are only getting $12 an hour, because they have to sit there and just dust the computers.
Yes, duster included. Maybe that's what we need to get made up, is some commercial drone pilot dusters, because that's about as much use as I'll be in 10 years' time, isn't it? Did we all see flights of that Bell APT thing, the quad sort of biplane thing? Had an amazing transition. I think the smoothest transition I've seen yet of a VTOL. No, we didn't see that.
I was more impressed with the Australian that went fishing. I thought he did a stunning.
Oh yeah.
And I was also absolutely gobsmacked by the response of the professional drone operator that they got to quote, who said it was incredibly dangerous because of the level of quality control. And I'm thinking, you don't know what the quality control level was. And if you looked at the video, he'd actually engineered that. He'd built it. He'd tried things. And it was a very well designed. It was a hex, had a top and bottom motors. So it was a 12 motor 6, hexacopter. Yeah. So redundancy. The guy was only suspended a few meters above water, and all the other bystanders were over on a bank. Safety was managed very well in that whole thing. But the commercial drone operators had to stick a knife in and say, "Oh, this is terrible and unsafe." But yeah, right, just because you didn't think of it and get a million views on Facebook.
And it was running a cube as well, I believe, wasn't it? Philip said it was autopilot in a cube, wasn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, so it sounds probably safer than most of the commercial operations.
Don't condone the carriage of people using autopilot. But
if he was using it, he's free to do it. Although autopilot has a code of conduct that we don't support or any way we cannot disallow, but we don't support the usage when human lives are at risk. We've had a discussion.
Human lives are always at risk, Louis. This is a dangerous pastime. You know, when you fly your little walk hunting in the backyard, you could choke someone if it got in their mouth. But the thing that I found interesting was the reaction of the authorities in Australia to this flight versus the reactions of the guy that built his own quadcopter. First of all, petrol motors, in, was it Sweden or somewhere?
Yes.
He was flying it. The difference was the one in Australia was a drone because the pilot was on the ground. It was remotely piloted. The guy in Sweden had the controller in his hands when he was sitting in it, so it wasn't a drone anymore. And we all know that it's a very, very subtle technical differentiation. Yet one was acceptable because it was considered to be a ground effect aircraft, and there's no licensing or regulations involving ground effect aircraft. And the other one was a breach of CAS's rules because the guy was standing on the shore with the transmitter and a thing over his head so that you couldn't see who he was.
Yes. Did we see Qantas's little quote this week? That was very cool. Qantas said...
Death to drone flies.
Sorry, mate?
Was that the one, death to drone flies?
No, quite the opposite. It was like, well, I'll tell you what, as an airline, we'll accept the risk if they're there in the approach. And if we're really getting that upset about it, best we ground all the birds as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Qantas actually, they said, well, we'd rather have one drone go through an engine than a flock of birds go through all four. Yeah. Which was very, like, oh, yeah.
How jolly dare they? That's going to upset a lot of pilots' unions.
It is going to upset a lot of pilots.
I suspect Balpo was already on the phone to him. No more flights in their aircraft.
Well,
mind you, Qantas airliners are given to falling apart in the air. They drop engines have uncontained failures and hatches fall off. Terrible, absolutely terrible.
But they've been the world's safest airline for a long time, haven't they? And then they've had a few incidents.
Yeah, but it's inevitable. What goes up might come down. That's just the simple reality of flight at the end of the day.
It is. It is.
Clearly, things hard enough.
Well, fair play to them for putting it all into the correct perspective, really. And again, Australia's been besmirched, besieged, overtaken by political aspirations, from very, very good drone regulations to possibly some of the worst, in a couple of short years from being the leaders. And it's happening everywhere around the world. It's just such a great... Google. Oh, yeah, there's something else happens with them, wasn't there? What was the other thing that happened with them over there? Oh, no, it was still the fact that they've taken all the money out in a wheelbarrow and not left any behind. That was it, wasn't it? Yeah, they've taken it all home, and there wasn't really hundreds and hundreds of jobs. And again, not hundreds and hundreds of pilots involved and all that sort of thing. That's what
not even $12 an hour.
Not even $12 an hour for 15 hours a day, 360 days of the year. I wonder if you can actually drive a... Yeah, you probably could drive a van 360 days a year.
You got a business. Businesses run 365. That's not an issue. But to run a business like that with aircraft down, they've estimated 300 odd aircraft just for one thing. You'd have to treble that just to have. And unless you get down the road of like the design that you had with what are they called? Zipline with the interchangeable parts. Okay, there's some clever ways around this stuff, but at the end of the day, wear and tear happens, and then I'll tell you what happens when a plane goes down and they lose a parcel.
Well, there was Zipline. I said I didn't believe in it. I'm a bit of a firm evangelist now, but it is absolutely niche, and they cleverly own every single part of it. Fly in, drop that parachute, come home in time for 2 medals, land at our own place, and 5 aircraft can approach and set up a loiter depending on their fuel states, and then land in order. So it's all jolly, jolly, jolly clever. But it's one parachute parcel to one place. That's it. It's not, dear Mr. Ampton.
Yeah. Something really interesting on the BMFA site regarding registration. It says compliance will be advisory rather than a condition of membership. Isn't that kind of radical?
How's that going to be with their insurance?
Sure, and that's where it's going to come down. How is the insurance going to go? They can't force their members. It'll always be it will always be advisory. But the question with that would be: is it advisory with regards to being a member of the BFMA or advisory with regards to being a member and getting the member benefits, because they are two different things. You know, if you want the insurance to be valid, I don't see how an insurance company would allow you not to be legal.
Oh, yes, it says. However, it is important to note that insurance cover provided members, it's provided to members covers lawful and recognised activities, and such cover could only be assured for those operating lawfully. Yeah, so they've given themselves an out there.
Yeah.
So when did they post that, Bruce? Because maybe that's why everyone's just woken up.
It was on the 23rd of last month, so it was just a week or two ago.
23rd of last week. Yeah.
That's when they've all woke up then. So,
yeah, that'll be the reason.
So what they're saying to their members is, we're not going to. I've not seen it. I'm a member, but I've not seen it. That we're not going to force you to join or register. However, if you want the benefits of the insurance, then you need to be legal, which means you've got to register. So.
Fair enough. Gosh. And on that bombshell, did anyone else see anything else before we crack on?
Only that satellite thing that Trump tweeted an image of a satellite image of a rocket that blew up somewhere in Iran or Iraq or something. And it showed you, resolution was 100 mils, I think. 100 millimeters of resolution in the image. So that's like drone quality footage taken from outer space, which kind of makes all these claims about drones are invading our privacy, they're all moot, because the USA can spy on you with incredible resolution. They can read the time on your watch anytime they want to. So why are we worried about other people spying on us? I don't think it's important anymore.
That it was a satellite. It can be a drone. US has drones flying all over, so I thought it was very interesting how people very quickly worked out exactly which pass that was and at what time or what angle. It was all very, very quickly worked out. So I guess it's fairly easy to work out, but that interested me.
Turkey will shoot them down with the anti-drone laser, will they?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, with their pen.
Why doesn't Gatwick and Heathrow have those things? That's what we need to know.
There's many things we need to know. Many things. Yeah, obviously there's. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I give up with a lot of it. It gets very depressing. It get in a time when things really are moving on quickly, and the technology is getting ever more impressive. There's just silly little roadblocks getting in the way, left, right, and centre. It's annoying. It's annoying. So right, down goes the gavel. Anyone else see anything else before we go?
Last week, I've asked Bruce about mini drones, sub 10 centimeter drones, and I saw that he posted a review of such an animal. So, how low will you go? How will you go for those small drones? I'm waiting for your review, Bruce. I have the credit card here, and almost going to press the buy button to buy.
Well, just give us a number. Just read it out now, and I'm sure
we can help you. There's an affiliate link in Gary's video description here. Just click on there.
No. I'm just waiting for the Bruce's recommendation for a sub 100 millimeters drone.
I'm waiting for some more to arrive, including some with 4K cameras, Louis, which I think would be right up your alley, won't they?
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking, not practically. This would be direct airline pilots here.
But the thing is, 4K for what size? So the thing is, what I'm looking now is the 75 to 85 millimeters. When you did the review was 110 or something like that?
I don't know. I don't know how big it was. It was. I just go by weight, because weight's the thing that determines compliance with regulations. So, yeah, I think the 4K one is still well under 250 grams.
Yeah, but for under 250 grams, almost under 250 grams, you have better drones that have better footage, and even for FPV with the release of those crazy plastic goggles that Parrot did for their FPV of the Parrots of the Anafi. But the thing is, those very small ones, those sub 10 centimeters, are the ones that I'm looking after. So I'm waiting for a comprehensive review of the market.
There'll be a lot more, because I'm going to focus quite a bit on the small style stuff, because that's, for a start, the northern winter's coming, so people will be flying inside, so there'll be popular videos, and also because that's the way regulation is pushing us.
Yeah, not only that, but you can have a lot of fun with those crazy bees.
Has the EASA allowed you to have fun? Is that included, or is that against those regulations?
No. Fun is free for now. If you have too much fun, that's illegal.
You got to pay. You got to pay if you want more fun.
Yep.
I'll resist saying it. I'll resist saying it. Bruce might say it. I'll resist saying it. Yeah, I know. I really like those little ones. We said that last week. Chris, iForce 2D was in the comments. I don't know if he's still there, but his Slice series of videos are fantastic. But he's also got a little wing. I can't remember what it was called, and he's aiming to get that sub 100 grams and flying autonomously. So that looks really cool as well. So look out for
if you look at the Ardu Pilot conference, not this one, last one.
The last one. Yeah.
There was also a demo of crazy little wing running full Ardu pilots on that thing, which was crazy. Paul Risenborough, the EKF guy, had to remove all the pins to make it lighter and lighter and lighter. I believe it was one of the smaller flight controllers from Jordi Munoz from MRO. So it was the Pix Racer. Yes, I believe it was the Pix Racer. So with all the pins off.
Yeah, it was just a flat foam board as well, wasn't it? It was just a flat bit of foam. It was just a flat zero aerofoil flying wing of like 70 grams, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. Because Australia has the 100-gram thing, so we're all lucky with big fat 250 grams. Well, we're away. Just look at all that extra weight. Anyway, last time, gentlemen. Any more?
Yep.
Did we talk about Kitty Hawk?
Kitty Hawk? Which bit about Kitty Hawk?
Kitty Hawk or Precision Hawk?
Precision Hawk, sorry.
Precision Hawk. Did we talk about Precision Hawk? No, we didn't talk about Precision Hawk. Now, they're getting on to hard times, but as I've seen said, well, what do they do actually anyway? Because
they're cooperated, right? They do everything related with industrial, commercial applications.
Because as you know, when you choose someone in the drone world, it's always better to choose the one that says wedding photos, LiDAR, bar mitzvahs, barbecues. As long as it's got every single thing you can ever think of in the advert, it must make them a quality company.
Do they also sing on bar mitzvahs?
I think they probably do. Well, they started with aircraft, didn't they? They started with aircraft and the farm
then they
thing.
went on a buying spree while they had money.
Yes.
So they bought a couple of companies, and now they're doing the other way. So they're not selling companies; they're laying off people, I believe.
Yes, I believe that is the case, and they already had one big round of layoffs. But of course, the controversy is they are well, as Patrick in the comments, come back from the comments, Patrick. They are on their man's in charge of one of the FAA big working groups, and their BV loss trial thing ran out, hasn't been renewed. Their man's still in charge, so maybe they're operating that illegally, perhaps. So there's all sorts of confusion and nonsense going on there,
their pilots were talking on a number of the commercial operator groups what's going on. I saw some posts saying I've heard something I haven't, and there seemed to be a lot of confusion. That was for sure, until there was a document that went out midweek, I believe, wasn't it? Something landed.
That's right. Yes, you're trying to fish it out of me. Yes.
Good for the development of the drone business. Okay, poor business decisions that will always be poor business decisions with Parrot, with GoPro, with 3DR. But on operators, they are doing the Silicon Valley bubble thing that is acquiring technologies and competitors, possible competitors. So they went to and spend all the money instead of developing businesses.
I don't think 3DR was a bad decision. I think 3DR lost it for themselves. I think GoPro was insanity. That was just insanity. It was never going to work. I think 3DR is a slightly different situation. But yeah, you are seeing so many fall now. So many companies and so much VC money is
money, haven't they?
Yeah. It's just disappearing at a rate of knots, and you're going to see people winding up and disappearing left, right, and centre because you're getting all these organisations that were set up to offer services, and it's always services. Seems to be that area is the biggest area that's failing within the industry. Hardware-wise, you don't see 3DR. With the only real big one to go. At the end of the day, Unique is still in business. IUTEL is still in business, Parrot is still in business. So we've only had one major manufacturer fall, yet we're having lots and lots of service companies disappearing by the day.
Yeah, because the services margins are limited because on the industrial services, you always get the competition of the unprofessional operator, which is perhaps the biggest ban of commercial operators, because you get the guy that not the bad actor. You always get the guy that bought himself a Phantom at Tesco or Best Buy. And did you buy a Phantom, Bruce? And goes and tries to sell imagery of properties for $10 per service. So that kills any kind of possibility of doing a commercial company viable. And these companies like DecisionLock and a few others cannot compete and won't compete with that. So they'll have to be smarter and go for the big businesses. And those big businesses have requirements, capital investments, so you can bring back more business.
But they're all beginning to bring it in-house, aren't they? Those big companies now. They've had a little play with Precision Orc and a few others, and then go, oh yeah, we like that, right? Well, we know how to do that now, so in-house it comes.
Yeah. But it's easy. You only have to employ someone with a reasonable amount of experience to build an in-house drone program. As long as they're a manager and they've got the experience, it's building the in-house drone program isn't that difficult. As long as you pick the right person, it's not terribly hard to do.
Yeah, and we see lots of job offerings being sent out, for instance, on the Autopilot forum, asking for developers for every kind of company.
Yeah.
So if you are in need of a developing job, go to Autopilot forum. There are quite a few these last few weeks.
Yeah, we've had a couple in the UK. The pay has been frankly disgusting, but we have had one or two come up. But yeah, it's as you say, and it's going to be interesting to see. I feel so. At the end of the day, the losers in all of this is pilots again. Unfortunately, we're having guys who are at the end of the industry who are the guys who are losing out once again. It's the guys being told there's no more work. It's people who've been sold a promise, building up businesses again based on the potential for work that wasn't there.
You're saying two completely different things. One is pilots, and the other is operators. Because those are things that are different. So
yes. I don't think many pilots would have been involved.
Yeah.
Well, that's another. This is deeply sad. No, anyone got a joke that we can leave on?
Okay. Do we think the boom is over?
No, not yet.
No, I don't.
No. I missed something. Was there a boom?
Is the hype over? The hype
The hype is gone.
Not yet.
Hype will never be over.
We'll still get these announcements of delivery. We'll be getting, because there's still venture capital to be spent on these crazy contraptions that people try to push over the throat of the investors, and some investors will get it.
Did you see that? Is it Terrafuga, Fruga? Well, did you see their new one, which is like a glass box, if you will, with some wheels on it, and that gets put into the urban air vehicle and then goes. And the benefit of that is you, as a passenger, you don't change vehicle. You go to the airport in this glass thing and get slotted in and then fly off. So it's very convenient for you. Fantastic. I mean, nothing could go wrong with it. Nothing at all.
But don't you think the fact that DJI are now focusing on cameras and gimbals for your smartphone is an indication that, at least at the consumer end, the drone boom is over?
I don't
all the comments have just arrived. I'm sorry, I haven't been ignoring your comments, dear viewers. I just thought, why has no one said anything? And they've all just boom arrived.
I think they're choosing to slow it. I think they have the ability to control it. Personally, I think they have the ability to control it, and they've chosen to slow it. And I think that some of that's around the EU legislation. At the end of the day, it makes zero sense for anyone to sell anything new today, apart from what Parrot have done. In fact, Parrot have basically gone, we got something new, which is not new at all. It's exactly the same as what they had before.
No, it's new. The thing is, I think Parrot did the right thing. So they did software improvements.
Yes.
So, and it's even every day, because, okay, we all know that the drones are almost a commodity. It's just to pick up the right combination of motors, propellers, and battery, and done. Then everything else will be the software. So, and you can tweak the software as much as you want within the boundary of the hardware. Parrot did that when they launched the Anafi, or the Bebop also. They would give you the ground control station for your phone or tablet, and then they would sell you add-ons. So if you don't need mapping, you wouldn't buy the mapping. You don't need Follow Me. You don't need to buy the Follow Me feature. Okay, they did target it wrong at the beginning about price-wise. So now it's what, $1, €1, £1, or whatever it is on app stores. But now this new feature, I believe some users would pay gladly on the Google Play Store or Apple Play Store, would pay for the FPV thing.
Yeah.
So, and they gave it for free. So everyone that has 2 years old drone or around that gets a new life for his drone. So it's a good investment.
It's interesting. It's, as you say, everything Bruce said earlier, everything is slowed. That's for sure. You know, no one's releasing anything. Everyone's holding back. It'll be interesting to see if it's the trick to this. We'll know is probably February time, if the industry races up again, because that's when pretty much everyone should be able to start launching new product. You would assume for the legislation starts next year. The rules should be in place by then. You'd expect to see most of the new product begin to flow from February, March, April on next year.
Isn't it going to fall in for this Christmas? Isn't something going to be released very soon?
Potentially.
The regular drones. So you sell now for Christmas, and you sell in June next year for the new legislation. That's why I'm waiting for the bad actor to come up with his advice.
Oh, I think something will drop in, this month or next month. I think there'll be something for Christmas. I think it will delight a large user group.
Most likely will be a bundle or something. Mavic Pro 2 with a horn. They have with a flashlight. They have with. So they'll put a blowhorn on the Mavic.
It's got a speaker already.
That's what AeroVironment put on the Raven, and they called it an area denial. It was a whistle. Do you remember in RC people used to put whistles on their planes?
Oh my God!
And they put a whistle on the Raven, and that would stop the bad guy from putting his head above the parapet. Why do you want to keep his head down? I don't know, but that was the area denial initiative or something, and I can't remember what it cost. It was like $10,000 or something for a whistle.
Couldn't do that these days, though. Couldn't do that these days because hundreds of women would file complaints of sexual harassment. Harassment. That's it. Yeah, any whistles up there. But it's a shame Cox has gone out of business because I'd love to have seen a control line drone with 4 little baby bees on it. That'd be fantastic.
Come on, you put 4 of these. I've been playing around with a 3D printer, printing some 118 decibels of whistles. So this will be great.
It's really hard to get somebody to whistle on a plane. I think the Germans did it with the Stuka, but I put lots of whistles on models, and it's really hard to get them to make a whistling noise. You can put one in the jet pipe of an EDF, but the airflow is actually, because you get the laminar effect, you don't actually get a lot of air going in.
That's an idea for a video for those FPV jobs you do.
Whistling while they work. I didn't expect that comment to go so far. I really didn't. It's a funny old world. All right then, look. It's very late. Mavic 2 police version with red blue sirens. Yes, there could very well be, Ryback.
I'm building one. I've got the red and blue LEDs. I'm going to do a night quad with flashing red and blue lights and just fly around and see what people say.
They already do. If they switch the LEDs for those RGB LEDs, then you can go nuts.
Yeah,
I'm already there, Louis. I'm already there.
What, gone nuts? Yeah,
yep.
That's for sure. Pan fleet. Yeah, I'm sorry that the comments all arrived in one go, and I wonder why everyone was being very quiet. They just all arrived, boom, like that. Dear viewers, gentlemen, thank you very much for our long chat this evening. Be careful wherever you are in the world. If you're in the UK and you're just realising registration is coming, look back at some of our videos. We've been ranting about this for years. Bruce has got them on his channel. Ian's got them on his channel. Just have a look back. We've been talking about this for a while, but it's coming, and nothing you can do about it now. Thanks very much, gents. Safe flying, everyone, if you are. See you again next week, 2100 GMT, because I bet some more nonsense will have occurred in this next week. Cheers all.